this town.
The original Silent Hill 2 isn't the timeless masterpiece we all like to remember it to be. The combat is clunky, the voice acting is campy, and the controls are constantly fighting against you in their tedious mediocrity. Yet, beneath it all sits a psychological horror, so effective, all of its prior flaws are forgiven. Konami created a harrowing journey through an abandoned town where monsters roam and a small cast of characters gather to confront their trauma, watching as their demons change into unknowable terrors that reflect the deepest parts of their subconscious. It puts you in the shoes of a normal man on what appears to be a heartfelt journey of reunion, trying in vain to reunite with a loved one, even if it means walking through the gates of hell itself. But there is more than meets the eye, and the brilliance of Silent Hill 2 doesn't come from fighting monsters or collecting an arsenal of deadly weapons, but from walking the streets of this ordinary town and trying to figure out what exactly brought its streets to such despair. That is the mission statement Bloober team signed up for with this remake, and ever since the first trailer, it's been fighting an uphill battle. But after playing it, I can now say this is a fight it just might win. I was taken aback by how transparent my hands-on preview of Silent Hill 2 was. I was given a controller and asked to start a new game and play for 3 whole hours, stopping just as I finished a boss fight with the legendary Pyramid Head, which mainly involved strafing about destructible objects, until a siren blared in the distance and granted me safe passage. But the fact Bloober team was willing to lay this game bare so intimately, without a curated slice that press are encouraged to consume, does speak volumes about its confidence. The first thing I did after the opening cutscene was run in the opposite direction of Silent Hill, if only to see how the game would react. Turns out this pops a trophy as you are greeted with a dense, impassable wall of fog. There's plenty of this stuff in the remake. Grey clouds of omnipresent vapour floating over the streets as monsters scurry inside it, either waiting to strike or standing solitary in their own eternal misery. As in the original, Jane will mark points of interest as you come across them on his map, making it clear where you can access, what doors are locked, and what you need to be doing in order to progress the story. Some will likely be taken aback, at least so far, about how utterly faithful this remake is to the original, or some of the puzzles and level designs are changed alongside an all-new camera and combat system. So much else is completely untouched. I used my memory of the original to navigate parts of town, while the sequence of events and even some cutscenes have been adapted with new dialogue and nuance, but the intention is mostly the same. Bloober team said it was afraid to make changes suggested by the original development team, and I'm still conflicted whether that stubborn authenticity is a good thing. Whether or not it's too reliant on the original, though, is irrelevant to how well Silent Hill 2 feels to play, which is surprisingly pretty damn good. Bloober team has taken the control scheme of horror hits like Resident Evil 2 and Dead Space, only to put its own spin on things. James can dodge by pressing the circle button, do a quick turn with a tap of R1, and even access handy healing items by pressing or holding triangle. It's intuitive, and makes combat and exploration far more enjoyable than before, even if some will miss how the combos and controls arguably helped heighten tension back in 2001. I personally found ammunition and resources to be sparse enough that I was still in a grounded state of perpetual anxiety, afraid I would walk into a room and be ganked by a group of faceless monsters, or venture too far into a blanket of fog that wouldn't hesitate to swallow me whole. I only ever picked up a few bullets at a time, and enemies take several of the buggers to take down. There were moments where I wandered into courtyards and saw upwards of 6 monsters all at once, roaming around aimlessly, knowing I could take them out one by one, sneak past, or run for my life. So far, Silent Hill 2 has done quite an excellent job at making these situations feel surmountable, yet always an unfair struggle. Survival horror is strongest when it puts you on the back foot, making even the simplest of actions an anxiety-inducing nightmare. After obtaining a flashlight in the apartment section, the reality of having to tackle its pitch-black corridors dawned on me. Yes, I can now see a few feet in front of me, but that isn't very far. Turn it off and you're surrounded by darkness that proves impossible to see through, your only clues to nearby monsters being a hostile buzz emanating from a rusted radio. I was scared Bloober team was destined to dilute Silent Hill 2 into a generic shooting gallery, while forgetting all of the bleak psychological underpinnings that make it so special, but that doesn't seem to be the case at all. You'll still be stumped by puzzles for several minutes as you look around gross rooms for a solution. You're also free to explore Silent Hill 2 with a nervous walk or a panicked jog as you try to get in and get out as quickly as possible. One thing that did disappoint me was how static parts of the game feel in comparison to other horror titans. I tried to destroy objects in the environment or walk past them to see if James would nudge dynamic parts of the world in his path, but nothing ever happened. You can smash windows to find extra resources, but that's honestly about it. However, it does lend itself to Silent Hill 2 being a nightmarish figment of our imagination, and how there is always a constant doubt that the people you encounter and the monsters you battle are real, or if James is creating all of this in his mind to deal with his wife's passing. Not once is this feeling in doubt, and despite knowing the original so well, I still felt my pulse quicken as I struggled to survive in such dire circumstances. If Bloober Team can keep on nailing that with the entire experience, they could pull off what many have long deemed impossible. Nothing is ever going to top the original Silent Hill 2, and I think the fans dragging Bloober Team through the dirt over this one are abundantly aware of that. It has been given an impossible task, and from the few hours I've spent with the finished product, it looks to be living up to it in ways I never could have anticipated. I'm still unsure how the combat will evolve over the course of the game, or whether it will make any needless changes to the narrative. New endings are confirmed, but right now, this is about as good as I hope this remake could be. If anything, it's much better, and points towards a revival that Silent Hill has been needing for decades.